Ladies and gentlemen, step right up before your very eyes. I'm going to show you the reusable components of the Qbix platform. Now, you may know that the Qbix platform gives you tons of reusable components for events, people, and all kinds of things that you need for your social network, and you can use them to assemble essentially pretty much any social network that you like for yourself. But in this particular video, I am just going to talk about the core set of components, just a few, like, for example, the tabs, the columns, and the dialogues that appear. So, for example, here we've got dialogues. Dialogues have many different effects that you can have. For example, blurring the website behind them. They intelligently appear pretty much across any environment. So here we've got, for example, the same thing, except we've got the dialogue showing up on a mobile phone. Okay, let's get into something more interesting. Here's a columns tool. A columns tool is basically an interface tool that lets you do things like open up different columns. And if you want, you can close them, obviously. But you could also close them all at once, like so. And everything rebalances on demand and so on. So it could be pretty interesting. As you can see, this thing has to scroll to highlight the selected thing. So for example, if I had done this, it's going to try to scroll to here. So everything is intelligently managed. Now, if you look at these columns on the mobile phone, you'll find that you can change the color scheme, do whatever you want. So here on the mobile phone, you have the same columns, but they behave differently. So for example, when you open it, it has the following effect. And also, let's go to events here. It's the same exact events page, and you could see you could change the color scheme as well. You could do whatever you like, actually, and I'll show you the tabs next. So here we've got the columns, and you can, for example, open the column and then open another column. And so you just have to define your interface once, and it intelligently sort of adapts to whatever it is that you want. You can also swipe down on a column like so. So anyway, these are columns. Now, let's look at tabs. In a sidebar environment, tabs look like this. And they're smart enough on the back end to actually save these elements so that when you switch between tabs, they no longer have to load the same page again. They simply reload the elements. The cool thing about the Qbix platform is we have what's called lazy loading, which means as you load more stuff, it loads it on demand as you scroll. This is found in many professional social networks like Twitter, etc. And the same thing happens here, for example, on the mobile phone as you scroll. As you can see, there's a little bit of a fade on the bottom, and that suggests to the user there's more and more that you could show. If you click on a profile, you can open a dialogue and so on. So again, this is how components can be used together intelligently in order to do things like search or in order to bring up profiles or anything like that. That's what's important, is to make sure the whole thing works seamlessly together, and that's what the Qbix platform does. Now, if you wanted to have these tabs, but instead of these tabs, you'd like to have tabs across the top, you can do that. Here, I'm going to refresh the page to show you essentially what it could look like, and you can actually change anything about this. But here the tabs could overflow here on the right, so they intelligently figure out how much of this to overflow. If the thing is short, then it actually shows you what has been selected. If the thing is long, then it actually puts some more stuff in here. In fact, if you go ahead and shrink this window, the tabs are going to rebalance themselves essentially, and they will render just enough intelligently that they can fit in there. So as you can even have one set of tabs like this. Speaking of that, let's look at the mobile phone. So on the mobile phone, you have many different options as well. Here, by the way, if you select one of these tabs, you could see it highlights and rebalances the tabs. Again, normally you wouldn't have this many tabs. You would have something that is stable and just shows up, but it can handle this as well. All right, let's look at the mobile phone again. So there are many different styles that you could have. On the iPhone, you often have tabs of this kind, where you simply go ahead and pick something on the bottom. Notice that the titles for these tabs appear, and they're all different sizes. We could have this rebalanced different ways. We could have evenly spaced, or we could have the titles try to fit. If you select one of these things, and again, it gives a little preview of what has been selected. But if you select one of these on the left, then it just goes ahead and highlights whatever you've actually chosen. So let's go back and select, for example, my profile over here. This is so that I can show you tabs within tabs. The way that would work is you have these tabs over here, and these tabs, unlike these, don't have titles. So as you tap them, you get a little preview of what it is that you have actually tapped. See that? And then the dialogues show up. You also have in-app, inline editing, like so. And of course, even the picture, depending on where you are and which browser you have, will do a different thing. So for example, if I wanted to, I could choose one of these photos here. Let's just choose downloads, pictures, me. Let's choose one of the pictures of me. Let's say this music picture here. And this is what appears. And once that appears on the desktop, you would use your scroll wheel. But here you use your fingers to zoom and drag because this is simulating a phone. So then you simply go ahead and it chooses that picture for you. The same thing here on the desktop. If I was to do that and let's say choose a picture, I would use your mouse and scroll wheel to zoom and drag. All right, so that's kind of the idea here. Now this picture is already as big as possible, but let me choose a different one. For example, this jet ski picture here. I can zoom in, I can drag, and then I can simply find what I would like. So that is how essentially a lot of these things work over here. Now, moving forward, we also have the expandable tool. The expandable tool lets you have as many of these guys as you want, and it intelligently scrolls and shows you everything you need to see. You can, again, have different tabs within tabs within tabs, and so on. Now, this is essentially how the tabs interact with columns. You simply have a column open and it replaces things, but when you close the column, you see the stuff behind it. It's up to you if you want to have this thing persist and the column only open up to here, or if you want it to open all the way. Again, all of these choices are completely customizable. Now, let's go ahead and change some of this. So I want to show this without titles. For example, I'm going to put false over here. And, oh, okay, this is on the live. So I'm actually going to show you here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you first the classic mode. The classic is when all your tabs are like this, and you select one of them, and it shows up as the selected tab. All right, this is my local environment, so there are no events here. All of these things in the columns work just as you would expect them to work. Now, let's say I wanted to change this to a hamburger menu. A hamburger menu is where the three buttons, the hamburger button is over here, and you could put a title of whatever's selected here. It's a familiar sort of interface. Now, for example, if I wanted, let's go back to icons. With icons, I could have icons across the top, but in this case, since there's no title, whenever I tap on one of these, it gives me a little preview of what I'm about to see. On the other hand, if I was to, for example, do icons with titles, it would look like so. And now there's no need to do a preview. Essentially, all of this, including the chats and all these tools, simply work out of the box. Imagine assembling your own website using just kind of like Legos. That's what this is all about. On my local version, I can't pay, for example, but if I go to the version here and I go to contribute, whether it's on the desktop or anything else, I can pay. So if this was on the desktop, I could pay using Google Chrome. And again, all of these features are just working out of the box. If you want a chat room, put a chat room. If you want a discussion about topics, you simply put that on your page and there you go. Everything is real time. If I want to share a link, for example, it can just do that. Here's a link. And so on. So I'm just going to post that, shows up with a link. You get the idea. So that's the Qbix platform, assembling stuff from your own sort of components. And there's a ton of components that Qbix offers, but in this video, I just showed you dialogues, expandables, and also tabs and columns. So that's how this whole thing works. Use it to build whatever site you want, using whatever interface you want, and it will work across all devices, including tablets, desktops, and mobile phones. All right, thank you very much for watching, and let's see what you can come up with using the Qbix platform. Thank you very much.